Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Development. If you can believe it, we are already starting week 5 of the semester. So time is just flying by, and we have already covered so much material in this course. And I really hope that you are already trying to apply some of the things we've learned in this class to your current context, whether you're in the workplace or if that has to do with managing your family or managing your schoolwork and the roles that you have as a student. I really hope that you're able to see and transform yourself in terms of your capabilities and your skills in those other contexts so that you can be the most effective leader. So, over the last 2 weeks, we have covered personality and we also covered values. So, looking at individualism and collectivism. And overall, you all did a really good job putting together your self assessments in terms of how you scored on these different measures. One thing that I wanted to note is that self awareness really is the foundation for developing yourself as a professional and as a leader. So, these exercises are meant to help you engage more fully with your values and personal tendencies and attitudes simply because we don't spend a lot of time sitting around thinking about ourselves typically. So, I really encourage you to dig deep in your analyses and to really consider, what do you know now? What do you know more about yourself? And how does that self awareness impact you or empower you to go out and be a better leader? So, one thing that kept coming up in the self assessments is that individuals were reporting their scores on certain facets of individualism or collectivism or the big five personality. And then at the end, they would say, well, I need to increase my individualism or I need to increase my collectivism. And this might be true, but I also want you to critically think about, is more better? Should you score a perfect score, a high, high, high on both individualism and collectivism? And is that realistic? And so, really, the point of these tools is to help you think about who you are as an individual and where your strengths lie and how you can leverage those strengths. So, if you're not extremely extroverted, chances are over time you're not going to become extremely extroverted. So, what does that mean for you? Are there opportunities where you could push yourself? Sure. But on the flip side, now that you know where you fall on these individual dimensions, what can you do with that information? How can you leverage your traits and your characteristics and your abilities to be the best leader that you can be? And this might tie in some of the situations or the context in which you're in. So perhaps considering how your traits and your abilities and your capabilities align with certain context, to recognize that you might thrive the most when you're in certain environments. And so at the end of the day, I really want you to know that more is not necessarily better. We can't all be high on every single personality dimension. And if we were, the world would be a pretty boring place because variety is the spice of life. And so each individual is going to bring a unique perspective and unique values and unique personality traits. But really being able to understand who you are and why that matters is what's going to drive you forward as a leader into the workplace. So I really encourage you to engage in some deep introspection and really give some thought to, what does it mean and how can you better approach the workplace and your leadership requirements now that you know this information about yourself. So with that in mind, we transition into what we're covering this week. So week 5 is covering motivation. And motivation is a handful of a topic because this is something that researchers have been studying for a very long period of time. It's one of the most foundational blocks to industrial organizational psychology and management theory. Is how can we get employees to work, and how do we get them to stay engaged and want to continue to work and continue to be productive? So this week, your challenge is to review the module, and that includes reviewing several of the leadership theories. And as you review these theories, I want you to think about how our perceptions of motivation have evolved over time and what sort of factors we have emphasized over time. It's no surprise that some of the early theories of motivation, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are not really used in the research literature so much anymore. This provided really good foundation for trying to start studying motivation, but now we've evolved into more nuanced theories of motivation. So I want you to consider perhaps how we've changed over time. I also want you to think about in today's current workforce and in today's environment or in your business environment, what theory of motivation do you think is most applicable? What do you think would be the most effective in motivating your employees to get the job done? And then lastly, I want you to consider how these theories might work in tandem with one another. So, how do these theories build on one another and how are they interrelated? So, are there elements of some early motivation theories that we still see in later motivation theories, and do they really work in conjunction with one another? Typically speaking, one theory of motivation is not going to be enough to explain all of our followers' behaviors. And instead, what we need to do is think about different facets, different elements of the multiple motivation theories and put them to work together, right? So it's not just one theory that's the end all be all, but how can each of these theories sort of tell us something about our employees and help us to be more competent and more capable of motivating them to reach their goals? So, again, this week we are back to the discussion board format. So you should read the module, read the assigned journal articles, and contemplate. Spend some time really thinking about motivation and what motivation means. And then take to the discussion board. You should answer your prompt by Friday at 11:59 p.m. So you have a couple of days still to put that together. Then by Sunday at 11:59 p.m., you should make sure you've responded to your peers' discussion posts on my or on Canvas. So here, have an opportunity to read what your classmates have written and then critically think about what they've said. Is there any information they might have left out? Is there an alternative perspective perhaps they aren't thinking about that might help expand upon their original ideas? So, really put some time and effort into crafting your responses to your classmates because you're really helping one another to grow and to expand upon what maybe your original perspectives were. So that is all I have for you today. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me an email. I really look forward to reading what you all put together. All right, have a wonderful, productive week, everyone. Take care.